On New Year's Day, I watched a ton of football. There are 3 games I really want to talk about from New Year's Day. I don't watch all 6 of the New Year's 6 Bowl. Some of them suck. 3 were really good I want to talk about, though. So, the first game I want to talk about is number 11, LSU, playing number 8, the University of Central Florida. Thank God, thank everybody. Be so grateful that LSU beat UCF 40-32. I am so happy Central Florida lost. UCF was on a 25-game winning streak, and their fans were getting oh my gosh, so annoying. People were saying, like, we want Bama, like literally as if Central Florida had a chance to ever compete with a team like Alabama. No way. Here's the thing. UCF plays in the American Athletic Conference. They beat up on teams like Temple, Austin Peay, Navy, South Florida, teams that are completely unimpressive on a national scale. And look, they dominate them, right? UCF is clearly a step above the American Athletic Conference football teams. But that doesn't mean they deserve a chance to play in the college football playoff. And if somehow University of Central Florida had beat LSU in their bowl game, all we would hear is we won 26 games in a row. We beat 2 SEC teams. We deserve a chance to be in the college football playoff. And they would have an argument because it wouldn't work. But if you look behind the story, you got to understand that LSU is missing 8 defensive players in their bowl game, either because they were ejected or because they were injured. And so when you realize kind of what's happening behind the scenes, it's far less impressive that Central Florida competed with LSU, an SEC team who's probably not jazzed to be there, and again is missing 8 of their starters on defense. Now, look, Central Florida had a fantastic season. I mean to take nothing away, but I don't think they should be in the playoff. They got exactly what they deserve. They were 8th team in the nation. Hey, they probably deserve that, right? They got a really good bowl game. They deserve that as well. They do not deserve a berth in the college football playoff. That would be delusional. Here's what you can do. If you're Central Florida, stop complaining about how you get screwed over every year. How about you schedule Florida and Florida State every single year? And when you beat Florida and Florida State in the same season, I'll shut up. I'll listen. I'll acknowledge, hey, you guys are pretty good. You beat 2 really good programs. But Central Florida, they play nobody every single year. They have a really light schedule, and they dominate a light schedule. That's fantastic, but they're never challenged. And so I'm so sick and tired of hearing of Central Florida. It just drives me nuts. God. Everybody should be so grateful that Central Florida lost to LSU because we would never hear the end of it. And it would just thank God LSU beat Central Florida. Let's talk about the Rose Bowl. This one will be brief. Ohio State beat the University of Washington 28-23 in the Rose Bowl. And for most of the game, University of Washington just looked outmatched, outclassed. They did not look like they could hang or did not look like they belonged on the same field as Ohio State. Here's why. Ohio State is incredibly dominant up front physically. And if you watch the way Ohio State played and then watch the way Jake Browning played, the University of Washington quarterback, Ohio State's quarterback Dwayne Haskins had time for days in the pocket. There was no pressure coming on him because Ohio State's offensive line was dominating Washington's defensive line. Then on the flip side, Washington's offensive line was getting annihilated by Ohio State's defensive line. Jake Browning was running for his life most of the game because, their offensive line sucked. It's really funny how we saw a team just get dominated at the line of scrimmage. Now, UW did make it interesting. They made it 23-28 late. But man, I think that game is a great example of why Jake Browning, Washington's quarterback, is not a great NFL prospect. He really, really struggled. There are times where, I think the biggest example I think of is there was a time where the corner was sitting at like 15 yards. His running back was in the flat, and he could have just thrown it on a lineback shoulder. Instead, he tucked it, tried to run, got sacked, had a fumble. It was ugly. And there are so many times where Jake Browning has people open downfield. He doesn't pull the trigger, or he misses with an inaccurate throw, and I go, hey, either what are you thinking, or how would you not make that throw? I don't understand. And it's really easy to be a Monday morning quarterback and kind of criticize Jake Browning, but I legitimately do not think he's very good, and I don't think he's an NFL quarterback in any respect. Now, one more narrative from this game I think is really interesting from the Rose Bowl. So Ohio State, for the most part, dominated the University of Washington, especially up front on the offensive and defensive lines. Now, November 23rd Washington University played Washington State. It's called the Apple Cup. It's a big thing if you live in Washington. The winner goes to the Pac-12 championship, and the winner of the Pac-12 championship goes on to the Rose Bowl. Now, on November 23rd, Washington dominated Washington State up front. Their offensive and defensive lines annihilated Washington State. So imagine this. Imagine somehow that Washington State beat UW, and they ended up in the Pac-12 championship game. And let's go all the way to Washington State is in the Rose Bowl. Imagine Washington State played Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. I am so glad. If you're a Washington State fan, you should be so grateful your team did not go to the Rose Bowl. It would have been 50-0. 50-0. Would have been awful. Ohio State would have decimated and annihilated Washington State. And so, man, Washington State fans just better be glad they lost in the Apple Cup to Washington because I know Washington State fans, WSU fans should be grateful. They got an Alamo Bowl. They got to win. They got to win their bowl game. Be very happy that Washington State did not play in the Rose Bowl. They would have gotten murdered. Okay. One more thing I want to talk about is the Sugar Bowl. Texas beat Georgia. Texas beat Georgia 28-21. Very, very interesting. And I'm going to say something really, really cliche, but it's true. Texas wanted to win the game more than Georgia. Georgia looked like they were sleepwalking. Georgia did not appear interested in the game at all. At least did not appear interested in winning the game. They just didn't care. It was apparent to me when watching the Sugar Bowl, Georgia's season unofficially ended when they lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game. All the spirit, all the passion was gone from Georgia when they played Texas. They didn't care. In the Sugar Bowl, they had 2 turnovers. They had poor tackling, lack of effort. Their punter was a mess. It was ugly. And I credit Texas, right? Texas played hungry. They wanted to win their bowl game. They had something to prove. Hey, fantastic. Well done, guys. And after the game, Sam Ehlinger, the Texas quarterback, said, "We're back." And it was cool. Like a good moment. But we got to ask, is Texas really back? And what does that actually mean? Because when you say we're back, there's no definition there. It's like, we're back. Okay. What's back? Back to being good? Back to winning national championships? Probably not. How do you define back? Here's what I'll say about Texas. They went 10-4, had a great season. They lost 4 games. That's not an elite team. That's a really solid team. I think they finished 15th in the country. That's exactly where Texas belongs. Texas may not be, I don't know what back means, right? We're back. I don't know what that means at all. But Texas is nationally interesting. I, as someone who's not from Texas, I've only been in Texas once in my life, don't really have a great reason to care about Texas football. But because of their win over Georgia, they're now nationally interesting. Texas grabs my attention from afar. They play nationally ranked games. I will now watch because Texas earned my respect with the way they beat Georgia. Now, September 7th, 2019, LSU will play the University of Austin, Texas, University of Texas. Texas, LSU, September 7th, 2019. If Texas wins that game, then they're back. Right now, they're nationally interesting. They are a team I want to watch, I'm curious about. But if they beat LSU on September 7th next year, week 2 next season, Texas is back. That would be fantastic. That's a game we're like, how many months away? We're 9 months away from that. I'm already like, I cannot wait to watch Texas and LSU on September 7th. It's going to be a great game. Going to be a fantastic game. That's how we can define is Texas back. Texas, I don't know what back means, but they are nationally interesting. Oh, I hate doing this. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I really don't like self-promotion. It makes me feel like a used car salesman, but I got to do it. So if you don't know, this is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. It's my favorite thing in the world. And you can subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can find it on YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube. You can also find shorter breakout clips like the one you just watched. Please do me a favor. If you like anything I had to say, maybe you hate me and you're mad about something, share this podcast with your friends. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to do. Help me grow by telling your friends about this show.